Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you that aren't aware, what we do is we start the stream a little bit early so folks at home can check their sound. We're going to have John Shepard play for us for 5 minutes here. So, John, you have the floor.
Please join me in lighting the chalice. The words are in the order of service. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. Well, good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Low Country. Those of you who are longtime members here, you know why you are here, because you've stepped into a community by which and in which you may know that you are reflecting your values, and your values are being reflected back at you. That's a part of why we gather ourselves here in this place at this time. I'd like to ask if there are any of you here who are first or second time guests or visitors. I'd love for you to be able to stand and introduce yourself to us so we might be able to get to know you better. So are there any of you here that this is your first or second time with us? Yes, ma'am.
I was here last week. I'm Lisa at Safari.
Welcome back. And you have a friend.
Yes, I'm Stephanie Harder and Lisa brought me
Welcome. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Are there any others among us? A few announcements that I want to bring to your attention. First of all, this past Thursday, several of us were representative of the UU congregation at the MLK Interfaith Service. on Thursday night, and it was really good. If I'm not mistaken, I think there were more UUs there than there were anybody else. But sometimes I count people twice. So it was a good time, and of course the march will be held at Hilton Head High School, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and I know that we will want to be represented there. Well, I will be there as well too. There is a cancellation I need to bring to your attention. You'll see that Saturday, January the 20th, Brooks Williams was supposed to be performing. I understand that he has had to cancel due to unexpected circumstances, and so I'm bringing that to your attention. You see the rummage sale that's coming up in April, and then, of course, other announcements that are significant to you and to our congregation. Is there anything I have left unattended to before we continue on? My friend Dick Hood, if you would please, opening words.
Good morning. Nice to see so many faces. For those of you who are perhaps new to us, we have a rather unique preaching arrangement where if you don't like one Sunday, you come next Sunday and it'll be a different person. However, having said that, I'm preaching next Sunday, so that doesn't work. We lie once in a while, but it's always a pleasure to take some time to prepare some thoughts and hopefully strike a chord with you. And I'm particularly interested today, perhaps more than some, if you will join us in the talk back afterwards. I may say some things that you wish to refute. I'm not sure. So I'm not going to tell you right off the bat who wrote the opening words, but I have a hunch that as I read them, you'll have an aha moment, say, "Oh yeah, I remember that." There's nothing you can do that can't be done. Nothing you can sing that can't be sung. Nothing you can say, but you can learn how to play the game. Nothing you can make that can't be made. No one can save that can't be saved. Nothing you can do, but you can learn how to be in time. It's easy. Before I say the last verse, John Lennon. All you need is love. All you need is love. All you need is love, love. Love is all you need. And speaking of love, our opening hymn is number 131. Please rise as you're willing and able.
The Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston has a long and complicated history. It's the oldest AME, African Methodist Episcopal Church in the South, founded in 1816. And in 1822, it was burned for being associated with Denmark Vesey, who some of you know is the enslaved person who tried organizing a slave rebellion. If his plan had worked, thousands of slaves would have been freed and they would have escaped to Haiti. The Mother Emanuel Church has been used as a gathering place for people marching for civil rights. Booker T. Washington and Martin Luther King Jr. have spoken from the pulpit there. And we all know of the racially motivated shooting that happened there around 9 p.m. on the night of June 17th in 2015. Intentionally on that night, because it was the 193rd anniversary of that slave rebellion that I just mentioned. One of the 9 people who died in that shooting was Sharonda Coleman Singleton. And I thought today I would spend a few minutes talking about her son, Chris Singleton. Reverend Dick Hood will be delivering a sermon this morning, which he's calling The Limits of Love. And one of the things he's going to address is the challenging concept of loving our enemies. And I couldn't think of a person who is a better example of loving the enemy than Chris Singleton. Chris is a guy who has loved baseball all his life. He was so good in middle school that he played for the junior varsity high school team. In college, he played outfield for Charleston Southern University. And he was actually playing baseball when he got the call that told him something had happened and he needed to get to the church. And it was there he learned that his mother had been one of the victims of a hate crime. His mother, 45 years old, was an ordained minister. In fact, she was the assistant children's pastor at Mother Emanuel at the time. She had been a track star growing up, and then she was a part-time track coach over at Goose Creek High School. Her full-time job was working with children as a speech therapist. And not only was she the mother of Chris, who was 18 at the time, but she was the mother to his sister Cameron, who was 15, and his brother Caleb, who was 12. And the reason I thought about Chris Singleton from Charleston is that I've heard a lot about him. My daughter Joanna was only 6 blocks away from the Mother Emanuel Church when this tragedy occurred. She was with friends, they were down the street. We were deeply affected by this event, as was the nation. And we watched closely as the city responded and the people of Charleston came together. Joe Riley, who was mayor at the time, declared that the suspect, Dylan Roof, was the enemy, and that he had intended to do this for evil. And what I remember is that I think it was like less than 24 hours after it happened, Chris Singleton felt what he called the power of forgiveness, and he forgave Dylan Roof. He said his mother had taught him that we have to love our enemies, and that when people were treating Jesus badly, what Jesus would say is what we all know. He would say, "Forgive them, Father, right? For they know not what they do." In the aftermath of this horrible act of hate, people gathered at a Presbyterian church about a block away from Mother Emanuel to process what had happened, and Major Naomi Broughton of the Charleston Police Department said, "I've never seen a multitude of victims as forgiving as these people were." She said there were a lot of angry people, including herself. She was so angry and didn't know if she could have ever been as gracious as these family members were. At the initial hearing, the judge allowed the victims' families to speak, and one woman whose mother had also been killed said to Dylan Roof, she said, "Because of you, because of what you have done, I will never be able to talk to my mother ever again." and I will never be able to hold her. However, I forgive you, and I have mercy on your soul." That woman believed in the biblical scripture that says, "Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them who persecute you." And Chris Singleton believes that way too. Chris felt that Dylan Roof had been misguided in his life to hate black people. And that is why he was trying to divide people and spread hate, which is exact opposite of what Chris wanted to do. He wanted to try to bring people together and spread love, which is what he is doing with his life now. Shortly after his mother died, Chris was drafted into the minor leagues to play for the Chicago Cubs. He probably could have made a career playing baseball, but he kept feeling like because of what had happened, he could really make a difference in other ways. So after a couple years, he left the baseball team. He married his high school sweetheart, and they now have 3 children. Chris's younger brother and his younger sister have moved in with them, and they all live together. Chris Singleton travels all over the country. He speaks to teachers and pastors, coaches, and parents. He's also written several books. We have one here in our Sunday school. It's called Different. Because he said he's not consumed by hate. And because of this, he says he's got more time to devote to his mother's memory. His message is, be a good person. Try to lead with love rather than with fear. Try to love people regardless of what they look like or where they're from or what their first language is. Just try to love them unconditionally because love is stronger than hate. And this is the way of paying his mother back for all the love that she gave to him. And Chris says he wishes that Dylan Roof had had someone in his life who could have taught him love. There have been more mass shootings since the one that took his mother, and Chris has gone to help on many of these response efforts. He's gone to Buffalo and the grocery store thing. He went to Texas. He's been all over. His focus is on steering people away from hatred and from division and helping them move towards more understanding and unity. I think Chris Singleton is someone worth looking up. He's out there. He's helping people. He's helping us put our shared humanity above our differences, and he's helping us get to a place maybe where we too can love our enemies. And that is our time for all ages. And so the young people and I are going to depart at this time.
And now as we prepare for the offertory, I'd like to remind everyone about our ongoing commitment to supporting the 2 food banks in our area, the Sandalwood Food Bank and also Bluffton Self-Help, with non-perishable food items that we stack up in the back and deliver to them. And I have a reading that I'd like to share with you that I found appropriate. And I hope you agree. This is by Arthur Foote II. Freely have we received of gifts that minister to our needs of body and spirit. Gladly we bring to our church and its wide concerns a portion of this bounty. Phyllis? Thank you for your generosity.
You've come to the right place to share your joys and concerns, because here you're among family. Not all family is blood. Some family is hand-picked. So if you have something you'd like to share, come forward, take a stone from the basket, tell us who you are and what you'd like to share, and then put your stone in the cairn. And we'll have no political statements or announcements.
Good morning. My name is Molly Hood. I'm kind of related to that guy up there. Anyway, I have a concern today, and it is that, you know, we live in Maine in the summertime, and our little village of New Harbor was hit by a terrible, terrible storm on Wednesday. And again, yesterday they had a follow-up storm. And there's a trail that goes right along Johns Bay called Pemaquid Trail, where our sons have houses and we're just up a ways. Anyway, this terrible storm wiped out all the seawalls. They're gone. And now the front lawns of these homes are being eroded into the sea. Some of them are eroded all the way up to the deck of the houses. One house has the foundation is in bad shape. There have been a couple of houses that actually went into the sea, and the fish houses are all gone. So anyway, it's just amazing. Our older son went up to his house, and he didn't have inside damage, but he's got shingles off and this and that. And again, his yard is eroding away. Our other son, fortunately, who's 2 lots away, is on ledge, and so he's not having a problem. But anyway, our son David helped a lot of people on the trail cope with various things, getting things out of their houses and move to safe land, and he's got shingles off the house. It was a horrible week, and Dick and I have just been, you know, watching and listening to all the comments that come through. We have an app where everybody on the trail has been putting in their 2 cents, and it's really a hard situation. And even at the Pemaquid Lighthouse, which is near us, the bell tower was ruined, and it was built in 1897. So this was just a horrendous happening, and it will be a long time before people get back to what's called normal. Thank you for your prayers.
Hi, I'm Wynette, and I'm here on behalf of the CARE Committee. Usually you see Betsy Morehouse up here, and as chair of the CARE Committee, she does the announcements. But Mike shared with us last week that Betsy was having some severe neck pain and was home. Unfortunately, that pain has gotten worse as the week has gone on. She had a recent MRI that showed severe spinal stenosis, severe arthritis, and nerve involvement. She's on steroids and strong pain medication, but being Betsy, her plan is to go 1 day at a time with an appointment next week for pain management and possibly surgery in the future as a last resort. I know everyone here is with me in wishing her strong will for next week as she gets pain management and for future treatment. And then she can come back up here and do this instead of me. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Kathy Quirk is in the hospital at Sloan Kettering in New York. She became fairly weak from her treatment, and they admitted her for some tests and to see if they could build up her strength again. They hope it's for a short stay. She is stable and has very good care from the hospital staff and her daughter Kate, who is with her now. So our prayers are with her also, and I'll put 2 stones in the cairn.
I'm Sharon, and for those few of you who might not already know, we have good news that we welcomed our first grandchild a couple of weeks ago, which is why we weren't here. Lindley Carroll, she is a joy.
Good morning, everyone. This is an announcement, but it is apolitical. I would just like to remind people that on Saturday at 11 o'clock, there's a celebration of life of Paul Weiser, my husband. So if anyone is interested and able to come, it would be most appreciated.
Hi, I'm Diana. I can add some levity. I didn't mean my hair to turn out like this. I'm just saying it was not on purpose. But I'm thanking people for their generosity of words and saying it looks good. So that's a joy. It's a concern and a joy at the same time. And who was it? I think it was Barbara who reminded me, Richard Bach in the book Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. It's one of my favorite books. He says that the joy that links a true family is not one of blood, but of respect and joy in each other's lives. And then he goes on to say, rarely do members of the same family grow up under the same roof. But anyway, it inspired me to say that. So thank you, Barbara. Oh, there you are. she's hidden in plain view. But yeah, I didn't pick up her. My daughter visited, as you know, she came to church last week, so that was a joy, and they're going to start trying to have a baby. So I was excited. About your situation, I had no idea, so that's very exciting news. And I have started dating, saw somebody 8 times, and he's very nice. But who knows, we're just having fun. No, but people who know me know my situation. But anyway, that's a joy. For now, who knows?
Hi, my name's Diane, and my first joy is that this is the first time I've gotten up here and shared a joy, so that's nerve-wracking but exciting. And I just wanted to let you know that on Thursday night I went to the ecumenical service at Queen's Chapel and learned this morning when Anne was talking that AME stands for African Methodist. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was a wonderful service. It was such a joy. The singers were gospel singers, and they rocked the house. And the other thing that was really fun is during the service, during the homily, the congregation responded by saying, "Amen, yes, yes, yes." And it just raised the whole energy of it sounded more like a conversation between the person who was delivering the message and the people who were hearing it. And so I just wanted to add what fun it was to see how different people worship. And if anyone today wanted to say something during the homily, maybe it would be interesting. So.
I have a huge joy. There is Mary Watson. I love Mary Watson. Welcome home. And I have one other joy. My youngest son, who's a widower, has been keeping company with a lovely widow, and he chose this weekend to ask her to marry him. And she said yes. We suspected she would because he's a catch. Now will you join me in reading number 436 in the back of the hymnal? We come to this place, this time and this place, to rediscover the wondrous gift a free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair, with all her people one.
Thank you. The theme for this month is liberating love. Someone wrote me and asked me what that meant, and I wrote back and said, I'm really not quite sure what that means. So we're going to forget the liberating for a moment and talk a little, but we are going to talk about love. And for those of you who joined us from perhaps a more conservative Christian background, you are going to be pretty comfortable today, because I am going to read from the New Testament. And this pulpit may shake a little bit, because we don't read from the New Testament much anymore in this church. But I'm going to do that. And then, for those of you from a Roman Catholic background, I'm actually going to go to my own personal confession. So that's just a little preview of what's going to happen here today. The New Testament reading this morning is from the Gospel of Luke, part of the 6th chapter. And the words will probably be familiar to you, but the translation may be a little bit more modern. But to you who are listening, I say, and this is Jesus speaking, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. If someone slaps you on one cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. If someone takes your coat, do not withhold your shirt from them. Give to everyone who asks you. And if anyone takes what belongs to you, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Back to the first sentence. Love your enemies. There, the pulpit didn't shake too much as I read from the New Testament. And now I'm going to try confession. Father, I guess you always, if you were Roman, I'm not Roman Catholic by background, but I gather it was always, Father, I have sinned because I do not love all my enemies. I know I should, but my confession is I don't. And I don't think I'm going to be relieved by saying a few words of confession, but maybe this sermon will take the place of what other people, when they used to have to say Hail Marys and the Rosary, and part of the Catholic tradition. I flunk the love test, basically. But I want to explain why, or at least give an example. And I need to introduce to you two people who have both been in the news recently. The first one is a woman named Kate Cox, who has been in the news recently. She is 31 years old. She lives in Texas. She is the mother of two, and she was pregnant with her third child. Unfortunately for her, the pregnancy did not go smoothly. 4 times she had to go to the emergency room for emergency help because of complications on her pregnancy. And finally, her doctor said to her that if she carried this pregnancy to full term, that there was the small potential, but the potential nonetheless that she might die. And there was a much greater potential that if she carried the pregnancy to full term, that she would lose the ability to ever have any more children. And the prognosis, unfortunately, for that fetus was very poor. That was poor Kate's problem. The problem, of course, was compounded by the fact that she lived in Texas. Nothing against Texas for any of you who are from that area, but I don't plan to move to Texas in the near future.
Amen.
I think that's the first time that's ever happened to me. Shortly after Roe v. Wade was overturned by what I will call the former president's court, the legislature and the governor in Texas very quickly passed an extremely restrictive abortion law. And basically the law was written so that pretty much nobody could have an abortion in the entire state of Texas. But there was one little small exception. And it said that, well, maybe just in, quote, life-threatening physical condition, that maybe you could have an abortion. Kate Cox was frightened. If she went to get an abortion, was she breaking the law? And was she liable? And even more so, were the physicians and the people who aided and abetted the abortion, would they be liable to fines and, according to the law, even imprisonment? So Kate Cox did a pretty smart thing. She went to court and she actually sued the state saying, my physical condition is such, and my doctor will testify it to, that I qualify under the very small exception that I should be able to have a legal abortion in the state of Texas. The court ruled in her favor, interestingly enough. We don't curse all Texans. There are a few, anyway. The court ruled in her favor. Let me introduce to you a second person. His name is Kenneth Paxton. He's 62 years old. He was born in the state of North Dakota, but he spent most of his adult life, spent most of his adult life in the state of Texas. And he's known as quite a conservative person. He spent a lot of time bringing lawsuits against Obamacare, trying to overturn Obamacare. He is currently the Attorney General. That's the highest legal person in the state of Texas. He was aware of the court decision. Oh, by the way, I had skipped one little piece of information I wanted to share about Mr. Paxton. In 2015, he was indicted for wire fraud. And interestingly enough, even though it is now 9 years later, he has still not come to trial for that indictment. He has used a variety of legal mechanisms to keep deferring the trial. Reminds me of somebody else I know. In any event, Kenneth Paxton had the ability just to say, well, yeah, there's this court case. It's one woman. She seems very sincere. She did the right thing. She even went to court to get a legal opinion. All he had to do was ignore it. Just let it happen. Nobody would have been the worst. Nobody would have felt terrible about Mr. Paxton. There would have been a few who would have criticized Kate Cox, but so be it. That's just human nature. But he could have just let the whole thing slide. He didn't do that. He immediately appealed the court's decision to the Texas Supreme Court. Interestingly enough, everyone on the Texas Supreme Court is a Republican. And I also checked. There are a number of women, however. I thought it might be an all-male court. I could really give you that zinger as well, but it's not true. There are women on the Texas Supreme Court. And the court ruled, or overruled, the lower court, and said, no exception. Her case doesn't qualify under this exception for the in the law, and no, she can't have an abortion. And he furthermore, not just appealed, he wrote a letter to all the physicians in the area, threatening them that if they performed the abortion, he would prosecute them, fine them, and send them to prison. Miss Cox eventually went out of state and took care of that situation, and I hope that she is as happy as you can be after undergoing such a trauma. In spite of all the things that we think about love, in spite of all the things in our 7 principles when we talk about love, in spite of the new thing around the 7 principles, you'll see the illustration in the foyer that says love is at the very center of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I do not love Kenneth Paxton. Pretty simple. I didn't even have to think much about that decision, actually. I do not love him. I consider him an enemy. And yet here I am, and I'm going to spend the rest of the sermon talking about nicer things than that, but here I am trying to promote people to love one another, and yet I personally have flunked the love test. And the words of Jesus may ring true, but in my life at least, they are not completely true. They don't tell the whole story. That is not a message you will hear from many pulpits, including pulpits in our own faith. How can I, who preach frequently about love for all, when I don't love all? How can I preach about the value of universal love for every single person when I have a person that I can identify that is the exception to that rule? And when Jesus says, love your enemies, he didn't say, oh yeah, but we'll make a few exceptions here for particularly evil people like Kenneth Paxton. Am I nothing more than some sort of hypocritical cynic? Don't answer that question. That's a rhetorical question only. I do not expect any amens at that line in my sermon. None whatsoever. It's a conundrum, at least for me personally. And I think when you think about it, it's going to be a conundrum for you as well. There must be somebody who has offended your sense of morality so much or caused you so much personal, perhaps spiritual injury that if you're really honest with yourself, you can say, I do not love that person. I better take another drink of water before I go any further. how do we solve that conundrum? Isn't it true that love is all you need? John Lennon thinks so. And I think that if we went out and talked to people, particularly anyone that lived through the 60s, where love was all around us, and if you listen to the music, and that's my music, that's my era, love answers everything, except when it doesn't. Love everybody, except those you don't want to love. And yet, we value love as the core of our Unitarian Universalist faith, and certainly it's probably the core of other major world religions. It's not just our problem alone. My answer is not very good. It's incomplete, and it lacks definition. And I've tried all week to provide more definition, and I haven't really come up with much. It seems to me that what we should strive for is not to love our enemies, because that's impossible. What we should strive for is not to hate anybody, because hate blinds us to reality, and hate goes against some of the other things that our 7 principles talk about. Dignity. In Universalist terms, even back as early as the 30s, almost 100 years ago, they talked about, in their articles of faith, the supreme worth of every human personality. It's not necessarily love everybody, but it's try very, very hard not to hate anybody. And I think I can say, as much as I detest, and that's not a synonym for hate, although you may think so, it is. Trust me on this one. It is hate that blinds us to our own religious faith, which says that there is good in every single human being. Sometimes it's not visible. Sometimes it's not just hard to find, it's darn right hidden, sometimes forever. But nevertheless, our faith says to us that in the end, all people can be good. Not that they are, but that they can be. The early Universalists had a problem. I'm going to talk about this more on next Sunday. They proclaimed that everybody was going to go to heaven because God is love. Well, their critics, and they were many, pointed out, well, what about bad people? What about evil people? What about people who have sinned? And we give you some they don't give you definitions, but use your imagination. What do we do about those people? Some Universalists, not all, said, oh, we got an answer for that. They go to hell first. And they're only saved universal salvation. They're only saved at the end of the world. That's when God brings everybody to heaven. Well, those are old-fashioned terms, and we don't think about that way anymore. But I'd like to leave you with the idea that John Lennon, unfortunately, was wrong. That simply the idea of loving everybody is, in my judgment at least, not practical. But it doesn't mean you have to hate. What it does mean is that you can try as hard as you possibly can to show respect, that's in our 7 principles, to show compassion, that's also in our 7 principles, and to show understanding of every human personality. That's how we get out of hate. And in my judgment, at least, that's what's really important. Not trying to love everybody, because if Kenneth Paxton appeared on this stage, I would try and respect him, and my way of respecting him would be I would not spit at him. Not nice thing to say. But that's the truth. That's the honest truth. And so I leave you with the message, if you can, forgetting about loving everybody, but if you can continually try your best not to hate somebody, then maybe you've succeeded in life. And poor John Lennon, rest in peace. I think maybe today, if he were alive, he might agree with me.
Hi.
Hi, Mike.
I think in the program, Ellen wasn't mentioned, but without Ellen,
I'm just here for moral support.
without Ellen, she just interrupted me. I'd be toast up here. All right. The song's called Sail Away. The chorus of this song came to me as I was talking to my grandson last fall. He had just turned 11. And I asked him, Easton, what was the best thing about your summer? There was a slight pause, very slight. He said, definitely sailing. Well, for some reason, the chorus of this song kind of flooded my mind, and I just went with it. For me, it becomes the metaphor for whatever it takes to open us up to adulthood and independence, and perhaps a larger sense of love. Liberating love, perhaps, this month's theme. I would love it if you could sing the chorus with me. And it's on that single page that's in your program. David is holding it up right now. I think it's in larger print. Now, as we sing it, you may even think of someone you love who might need to or has sailed away. All right. Let's tuck this in a bit. Sail away, my boy, sail away. But please sail home one day. At 10 years old, sailing Lake Ontario, the wind was fresh and steady. He manned the jib and watched the wind, just a boy, but he was ready. The boy is 14 now. Don't the years fly by? One with the wind and the wave. He skips a boat and he wins the race. And nothing can slow his pace. Here we go, here's the chorus coming right up. Sail away, sail away, my boy, sail away. And please sail home someday. Oh, that was so good. The boy's now 18. A new love is his crew. Together, the thrill of the wind. They race with joy and skill every day. Happy and in love as they'll ever be. At 24, his loving family understands, and his true love sadly agrees. As he packs his bag and he leaves his home to sail the 7 seas. Here we go, everybody. Sail away, sail away, my boy, sail away. But please sail home someday. Let's do it one more time. Sail away, sail away, my boy, sail away. But please sail home someday. Please sail home someday. Thank you, everybody.
Mike, thank you. That was such a sweet piece. Ellen, thank you for assisting him with that. And our hearts are thinking about Betsy. I hope she's able to be back with us in our community here soon. I know you have the same thought. Wanted to remind you of Maxine's reminder of Paul's service this coming Saturday. I hope that many of us will be there. And Maxine, we continue to keep our hearts towards you in the journey that you're on. It's at 11. Am I right? Yes, thank you. Ellen was just asking me about the time. 11 o'clock on Saturday. Dick, I love you. I do not hate Dick Hood. I do love Dick Hood. I told him when I stepped up, I said, Dick, thank you for that message, I think. And we'll keep working on that. Please stay, those of you who are unfamiliar with our talk back, please stay for that, and we'll have a chance to chew on this a little bit more. But Dick always challenges me, and I think perhaps you as well, too. So those are some of my concluding remarks, and I know, Dick, you have your final comments, if you would, please.
In honor of Martin Luther King, let me end with a quote from him. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. Let's love, now my quote, let's love the best we can.
Shall we stand together now to extinguish the chalice? While we extinguish this flame, we still carry in our hearts the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Thank you.